All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to have to find out which motherboard you have. And the easiest way that I can think of to figure out which motherboard you have is to download Hardware Monitor from CPU ID. And that's pretty simple. So if you want to Google, search for Hardware Monitor, it should pop up as the first one from CPU ID there. So scroll down, download the setup, and install that program. Once that's done, open up the program, and you'll see on the first line is actually your motherboard. You can drag up here if it's too short for you to see the actual name, but as you can see, my motherboard name is the MSI A520M-A slash or dash A Pro. So if I go onto Google again and I search for this, then I will get the manufacturer website for this specific motherboard. If I go onto here, then be sure to click on the right support button. Pretty much every website has two support. One is like overall support from MSI, and that's not what you want. You want to go onto the support page for this motherboard. And if you then jump to the BIOS tab, which in this case is pre-selected, you just download that. Once it's downloaded, just simply extract the folder to, for example, your downloads folder. And boom, you have it. The next part you need is you need to add or insert a USB that is 8 GB, or it doesn't really have to be 8 gigabytes. It has to be barely any size really. 2 gigabytes is fine. So right click on that and format it. And what you want to do is you want to format it to FAT32, or else the BIOS will not be able to read it properly. So it will, of course, warn you that it wants to format it and thereby delete everything. Once that's done, you have your clean folder here for the USB. What you have to do is you have to simply drag the file that isn't a text file, but in this case it's an A or 1A0 file. Drag it over to your folder. And so this part's kind of important. You want to you want to eject your USB correctly. So that means right click down here and say eject USB. And that is simply because if you don't do that, then if you just yank your USB out, you might end up in a situation where the file hasn't been copied over properly yet because of like a latent or queued program or file movement, and you could have a corrupt BIOS file, which could end up in you breaking your motherboard. Yeah. All right, time to restart the computer and install the BIOS. Okay then, so a bit of a ghetto solution I have running here, but here's the USB that we made before. So start by just yapping it into the machine and turning on the computer. Hold down or spam your delete button to get into BIOS, the general button to get into BIOS for any motherboard manufacturer except, I guess some OEMs. Yeah. As mentioned before, I don't have the fancy way to record my screen while I'm in BIOS because obviously the operating system is not present, so I can't open up any program. So what you're going to do is on an MSI motherboard here, you're going to go into MFlash. Generally, use your keyboard for this. Don't use your mouse because that's a horrible experience. Keyboard is way faster when you're working here. And if you don't have this view, press F7 because then you'll be jumping between, and on some motherboard manufacturers it'll be F6, but F7 on MSI, and you'll be able to jump between easy mode and advanced mode. Jump into MFlash and wait for it to restart. That's better. Okay, I'll start over again. So on this USB, on the left side, you have all your different drives connected, or at least the partitions of the drive. So as you can see, there's a 120 gigabyte SSD and the USB drive that we prepared before. So if I jump to the right, again, use your keyboard, then you can see there's the file that I've highlighted is has the correct string name, the model name, but it's just a different version, a newer version. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press enter to select this file and say yes. Alright, so this is going to take a while, so I'm just going to let it stand here for a while and make sure to not disconnect your power in any kind of way or pull out the USB or anything. You have to really let the computer do what it has to do here. It's very important. Or else you might break your motherboard, which would really suck. Okay, so it finally finished, and yeah, it's restarting. And again, on this computer, it'll probably just restart once. On some, it might restart several times because there are several sub systems, I guess you would call it, that it might be updating. Again, I'm going to be ready to press the delete button to get into BIOS. Okay, so that took way longer than I had, that I was really starting to get scared actually, because it took way longer from my previous experience of updating this motherboard. So when you're here, you might want to do some things. As mentioned, you've updated your BIOS, so that means all your previous settings have been removed. If you have a profile, it will probably still be there. But what you could do is you could go in and, for example, enable XMP profile because that's nice, or you could go in and enable resizable bar just to get the correct performance. And that's pretty much it. F10 to save and exit, and you should be good to go. Right. So I hope that was useful in any kind of way. Yeah. Uh, have a good day. Bye.